The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the fields where the farmer worked. His back ached from hours of bending, pulling weeds, and tending to the stubborn soil that barely gave enough to feed his family. Life was hard, but he never complained. He had learned long ago that complaining didn't fill an empty stomach. As he wiped the sweat from his brow, a strange noise cut through the quiet afternoon, a deep, shuddering roar, like thunder but sharper. He straightened up, squinting at the sky. A plane, sleek and fast, streaked across the horizon, trailing smoke. His heart pounded. It was going down. Without thinking, he dropped his tools and ran toward the direction of the crash. Brambles tore at his clothes, but he pushed through, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The forest was thick, but the trail of broken branches and the smell of burning fuel led him forward. Then he saw it, the wreckage, half buried in the dirt, one wing snapped clean off. The farmer's stomach twisted. No one could have survived that. But as he stepped closer, a weak groan reached his ears. There, pinned under a piece of twisted metal, was the pilot. A woman, her face streaked with blood, her flight suit torn. Her eyes fluttered open, locking onto his with a mix of pain and desperation. "Help me," she whispered before her head slumped back. The farmer didn't hesitate. He grabbed the metal and pulled with all his strength, muscles straining. It gave way with a screech, and he dragged her free, careful not to worsen her injuries. She was alive, but barely. He lifted her into his arms, her body lighter than he expected, and began the long trek back to his small home. His wife would know what to do. She had some knowledge of healing, learned from her mother. As he walked, the woman stirred again, her fingers weakly clutching his shirt. "Don't tell anyone," she breathed. The farmer frowned. What kind of secret could a dying woman have? By the time he reached his hut, the sun had dipped below the trees. His wife gasped when she saw them but quickly sprang into action, clearing the wooden table and laying out clean cloths. The farmer set the woman down gently as his wife began cleaning her wounds. The pilot's eyes opened once more, clearer now. She looked at them both, fear and something else, something like guilt, flashing across her face. "Thank you," she said softly. Then, with great effort, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, strange-looking device. It was unlike anything the farmer had ever seen, sleek, metallic, with a faint blue glow. Before he could ask what it was, she pressed it into his hand and whispered, "Hide this. They'll come for it, and for me." Then her eyes rolled back, and she fell unconscious again. The farmer and his wife exchanged worried glances. Who was this woman? What was this object? And who were they? Outside, the wind howled, carrying with it the first drops of rain. Something told the farmer that his simple life was about to change forever. The farmer's wife worked quickly, her hands steady despite the fear in her eyes. She cleaned the pilot's wounds with boiled water and herbs, wrapping them in clean cloth. The woman's breathing was shallow, but she was alive, for now. The farmer stood near the door, turning the strange device over in his rough hands. It was cool to the touch, humming faintly like a trapped insect. He had never seen anything like it. Was it some kind of weapon? A tool? His fingers traced the odd symbols etched into its surface, letters, maybe, but not in any language he knew. His wife glanced up, her voice hushed. What did she mean, "They'll come for it"? The farmer shook his head. "I don't know. But we can't let anyone find her here." A sharp knock at the door made them both freeze. The farmer's heart pounded as he shoved the device into his pocket and stepped forward. Through the cracks in the wood, he saw the outline of a man in uniform, a soldier. "Open up," the voice demanded. The farmer exchanged a look with his wife. She quickly threw a blanket over the unconscious pilot, hiding her from view, then nodded. Taking a deep breath, the farmer unlatched the door. A tall officer stood there, his face stern, flanked by 2 armed men. Their uniforms were crisp, their boots polished, city men, not from around here. "We're searching for a missing aircraft," the officer said, his eyes scanning the small hut. "Did you see anything?" The farmer kept his face blank. "Only heard a noise, sir. Like thunder. Thought it was a storm coming." The officer's gaze lingered on him, suspicious. "No plane? No wreckage?" The farmer shrugged. "These woods are thick. If something crashed, it'd be hard to find." One of the soldiers shifted, peering past the farmer into the dimly lit room. His wife stood by the fire, stirring a pot, her back turned. The blanket over the pilot didn't move. The officer hesitated, then nodded. "If you see anything, report it immediately. This is a matter of national security." The farmer forced a nod. "Of course, sir." The soldiers turned and left, their boots crunching on the dirt path outside. The farmer closed the door slowly, listening until their footsteps faded. His wife let out a shaky breath. "They're looking for her." The farmer's fingers tightened around the device in his pocket. Whatever secret this woman carried, it was dangerous. And now, they were part of it. He walked back to the table and pulled the blanket aside. The pilot's face was pale, her lips slightly parted. But then, her fingers twitched. Her eyes opened. This time, there was no confusion in them. Only fear. "You didn't tell them," she whispered. The farmer shook his head. "No." She tried to sit up, wincing in pain. "You have to get rid of that device. Or hide it where they'll never find it." "Who are they?" his wife asked. The pilot swallowed hard, as if weighing how much to say. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper. "That device, it's proof. Proof that everything they've told us is a lie." Outside, the wind howled, rattling the shutters. The farmer felt a chill crawl down his spine. He had a feeling the soldiers wouldn't be gone for long. The pilot's words hung in the air like smoke, thick and suffocating. "Proof that everything they've told us is a lie." The farmer's wife clutched the edge of the table, her knuckles white. "What does that mean?" she asked, voice trembling. The pilot tried to sit up again, gritting her teeth against the pain. "Not here," she whispered. They could still be listening. The farmer moved to the window, peering through the cracked shutter. The soldiers were gone, but the trees swayed unnaturally in the wind, as if hiding unseen watchers. He turned back. "Then where?" The pilot's eyes darted around the small hut before settling on the farmer. "Somewhere, underground." His wife gasped. "The old root cellar. Behind the house." The farmer hesitated. The cellar was half collapsed, unused for years. But it was the only place they could speak without fear of being heard. He nodded. "Can you walk?" The pilot's jaw tightened. "I have to." Slowly, with the farmer supporting her on one side and his wife on the other, they helped her stand. She swayed, her face twisting in pain, but managed to stay upright. Step by shaky step, they moved toward the back door. The night air was cold, biting through their thin clothes. The moon hid behind clouds, leaving only faint starlight to guide them. The cellar doors were nearly buried under overgrown weeds, the wood rotting. The farmer yanked them open, the hinges groaning in protest. A damp, earthy smell rose from the darkness below. His wife fetched a small oil lamp, its flickering flame casting long shadows on the dirt walls as they descended. Cobwebs brushed their faces, and the sound of scurrying rats made the pilot flinch. At the bottom, the farmer helped her sit on an upturned crate. The cellar was cramped, the ceiling so low he had to hunch. But it was safe. "Now," he said, voice low. "Tell us what's really going on." The pilot took a shaky breath. "I wasn't just flying a normal mission," she began. I was transporting that. She pointed to the device still clutched in the farmer's hand. It's not from here. Not from our government. Not from any government on Earth. A beat of silence. His wife's eyes widened. Then where? The pilot's voice dropped to a whisper. Somewhere else. Another world. Another place. The farmer's stomach twisted. This was madness. And yet, the device in his palm hummed faintly, warm against his skin. It felt unnatural. They've been lying to us for years, the pilot continued. Telling us we're alone. That we're the only ones out here. But we're not. And that, she nodded at the device, is the evidence. The farmer's mind raced. If this was true, it changed everything. But why had she been the one carrying it? And why had she crashed here? Before he could ask, a sound from above made them all freeze. Footsteps. Heavy. Deliberate. Someone was walking around the house. The pilot's face went pale. They're here. The farmer blew out the lamp, plunging them into darkness. Above, the footsteps paused, right above the cellar doors. Then, a voice. Search everywhere. She couldn't have gone far. The farmer held his breath. His wife's hand found his in the dark, her grip tight with fear. They were trapped. The footsteps moved away from the cellar doors, crunching on dried leaves as the soldiers fanned out around the property. The farmer didn't dare breathe. Next to him, the pilot trembled, whether from pain or fear, he couldn't tell. His wife's fingers dug into his arm like talons. A sudden crash made them all jump, the sound of their front door being kicked in. Wood splintered, followed by the thud of boots stomping through their home. Drawers were yanked open, furniture overturned. The soldiers weren't searching anymore, they were tearing the place apart. The pilot shifted, wincing as her injuries pulled. They'll check the cellar next, she whispered. There's another way out. Every farm cellar has one. The farmer frowned. The old air vent in the back wall, barely wider than a man's shoulders, clogged with years of dirt and spiderwebs. But if they could clear it. Another crash from above. Closer now. He moved through the pitch blackness, hands scraping against rough stone until he found the vent opening. His fingers clawed at the rotted wooden slats blocking it. One gave way with a dry crack that sounded deafening in the stillness. Above them, the footsteps stopped. Did you hear that? A voice called. The farmer froze. His wife pressed a hand over her own mouth, eyes wide in the dark. Then, miracle of miracles, a shout came from the other side of the house. Sir! We found blood on the bedsheets. The footsteps hurried away. The farmer didn't waste another second. He ripped the remaining slats free, revealing a narrow tunnel angling upward. Dirt rained down as he scrambled through first, elbows scraping against packed earth. The smell of damp soil filled his nose. After what felt like an eternity, his hands broke through to open air. He hauled himself out behind a thick blackberry bush, its thorns scratching his arms. A moment later, his wife's pale face appeared in the hole, then the pilot's sweat-slicked brow. They collapsed in the undergrowth, chests heaving. From this angle, they could see 3 military trucks parked haphazardly near their home. A dozen armed men moved with purpose, flashlights cutting through the darkness. The pilot grabbed the farmer's sleeve. We need to get to the river, she gasped. There's a boat, extraction point. His wife shook her head. You can barely walk. A shout rose from the house. Cellar's empty. But the vent's been breached. Flashlight beams swung toward the fields. The farmer made a decision. He scooped the pilot into his arms like a child, her breath hot against his neck. Run, he told his wife. They moved low through the barley fields, the tall stalks whipping against their legs. Behind them, engines roared to life. The hunt was on. The pilot's fingers clutched the strange device where it rested in the farmer's pocket. "If they catch us," she whispered, "don't let them take it alive." The river's black surface glinted ahead. No boat in sight. Then, a sound that didn't belong. A deep, rhythmic thumping growing louder in the night sky. The farmer looked up just as a dark shape blotted out the stars. Something was coming. And it wasn't human. The thumping sound grew louder, shaking the air like a massive heartbeat. The farmer's wife screamed as the barley stalks around them whipped violently in the downdraft. Above them, a black triangular craft, completely silent except for that deep, rhythmic pulse, hovered just above the tree-line. No lights. No markings. Just darkness shaped like a knife. The soldiers saw it too. Shouts turned to panicked screams as their flashlights swung wildly toward the sky. One man dropped his rifle and ran. Another fell to his knees, making the sign of the cross. The pilot struggled in the farmer's arms. "Put me down," she gasped. "They're here for the device." As soon as her feet touched the ground, she grabbed the glowing object from the farmer's pocket and held it high. A beam of blue light shot from the device straight up to the black craft. The response was immediate. A section of the craft's underside slid open, revealing a blinding white light. The farmer threw an arm over his eyes as the light swept over them like a physical force. His skin tingled. His bones vibrated. Beside him, his wife clutched his free hand so tight he felt her nails break skin. Then, a voice. But not from outside. Inside his head. "You have what was lost." The words weren't in any language, yet he understood them perfectly. The pilot staggered forward, her face turned up to the light. "Take it back," she shouted. "Before they dash." Gunfire erupted from the tree line. The farmer spun to see 3 soldiers unloading their rifles at the craft. Bullets sparked harmlessly against its surface. The craft's light pulsed angrily. One of the screaming soldiers suddenly went silent, his body lifting 5 feet off the ground, limbs splayed unnaturally. His companions turned to run, but the same invisible force snatched them up too. The farmer watched in horror as all 3 men hung suspended in midair, their mouths open in silent screams. Then they were gone. Just gone. The light focused back on the pilot. She thrust the device toward it. "Take it and go. They'll send more. They'll dash." A wet cough interrupted her. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. She swayed on her feet. The farmer caught her just as her knees buckled. The voice came again, this time sounding almost sad. "The choice is made." The light intensified, blinding them all. When the farmer could see again, the device was gone. Only the pilot remained in his arms, her breathing shallow. Above them, the black craft shot straight upward without a sound, vanishing into the clouds in less than a heartbeat. Silence fell over the riverbank. Then distant sirens wailed. More trucks. More soldiers. Coming fast. The pilot's bloody fingers clutched the farmer's shirt. "They'll kill everyone who saw," she whispered. "You have to run. Now." His wife tugged his arm. "The fishing boat. Down at the bend." The farmer hesitated. The pilot was right, the soldiers would never let them live after what they'd witnessed. But the boat was small. Slow. They'd be sitting ducks on the open water. A new sound cut through the night, the roar of helicopter blades. Searchlights swept the fields. The pilot pushed weakly against his chest. "Leave me. I'm already dead." The farmer looked at his wife. At their home burning in the distance. At the approaching lights. He made his choice. Hoisting the pilot higher in his arms, he turned toward the river. "We all go," he said. The old fishing boat rocked violently as the farmer dumped the pilot onto its moldy floorboards. His wife scrambled to untie the rope while the helicopter's searchlight swept closer, turning the river's surface into a shimmering silver road leading straight to them. "Start the engine," his wife screamed. The farmer yanked the pull cord. Once. Twice. On the third try, the outboard motor sputtered to life with a cloud of blue smoke. He twisted the throttle just as the searchlight caught them in its glare. A voice boomed from above, "Halt or we will fire." The pilot groaned, rolling onto her back. Her shirt was soaked with blood. "They won't shoot," she gasped. "Not while I'm with you. I'm too valuable." The farmer didn't wait to test her theory. He steered the boat into the current, its bow slapping against the choppy water. Behind them, the helicopter pivoted like an angry hornet. Then, a new sound. A deep whump from the shore. "RPG," the pilot shrieked. The farmer barely had time to react before the rocket-propelled grenade screamed overhead, missing them by feet before exploding against the far bank. Dirt and rock rained down on the boat. His wife crouched low, arms over her head. "They're trying to kill us anyway." The pilot coughed blood. "No, that was a warning shot. Next one won't miss." She struggled to sit up. "Turn back. It's me they want." The farmer gripped the tiller tighter. The river curved ahead. If they could make it around the bend, they'd have momentary cover from the trees. Maybe enough time to. A second whump cut his thoughts short. This time, the rocket hit the water just off their stern. The concussion lifted the back of the boat clean out of the water. The motor died instantly. They were sitting ducks now, drifting sideways in the current. The helicopter moved in for the kill, its searchlight pinning them like insects. The farmer could see the gunner leaning out, his machine gun tracking their every move. Then, a miracle. All the helicopter's lights went dark. Its engine coughed. The rotors stuttered. Through the pilot's blood-streaked face, the farmer saw a grim smile. "Told you, they wouldn't risk damaging me," she whispered. But something was wrong. The helicopter wasn't just having engine trouble, it was being pulled downward, toward the river. The pilot's smile faded. "Oh no." The water beneath the helicopter began to glow. The same eerie blue as the device had been. The farmer's skin prickled with déjà vu. The helicopter tilted violently as an unseen force grabbed it. The crew screamed over the radio, words cut short as the aircraft was yanked beneath the surface in less than a second. No splash. No debris. Just, gone. The river went still. The farmer's wife clutched his arm. "What just?" A deep vibration thrummed through the boat. The water around them began to swirl. The pilot grabbed the gunwale with shaking hands. "They're back," she breathed. The farmer looked down just as the glowing blue light returned, this time directly beneath their boat. The water itself seemed to be parting. The last thing he heard before the light swallowed them whole was the pilot whispering, "Don't be afraid." Then, darkness. Consciousness returned like a slow sunrise. The farmer blinked against the sterile white light surrounding them. Cold metal pressed against his cheek, he was lying on some kind of smooth, seamless floor. His wife groaned beside him, clutching her head. Where? The pilot was gone. The farmer scrambled up, his calloused hands slipping on the unnaturally smooth surface. The room was perfectly circular, with no visible doors or windows. The air smelled faintly of ozone and something else, something sharp and unfamiliar. A sound like rushing wind made them both turn. A section of the wall simply melted away, revealing a tall figure silhouetted against blinding light. Not human. The being stood at least 7 feet tall, its slender frame covered in what looked like liquid silver. No face, just a smooth oval where features should be. It moved toward them without walking, gliding across the floor like a reflection on water. The farmer grabbed his wife and pulled her behind him. His heart hammered so hard he could feel it in his throat. The being stopped an arm's length away. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once, the walls, the floor, inside their skulls. "You are unharmed." It wasn't a question. The farmer's wife peeked around his shoulder. "Where's the pilot?" she whispered. The silver figure tilted its head. A seam appeared in its smooth face, splitting horizontally to reveal a glowing blue line. The farmer realized with a shock that it was smiling. "She is being remade." Before they could process this, the wall opened again. 2 more figures entered, carrying something between them. No, not something. Someone. The pilot. But not as they'd last seen her. Her burns were gone. Her skin glowed with health. Even her hair looked different, shinier, thicker. She wore a simple white shift that shimmered like woven moonlight. When she saw them, her eyes, now a startling violet, filled with tears. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "This wasn't the plan." The farmer reached for her, then hesitated. "Are you?" The silver beings retreated as the pilot stepped forward. She moved differently now, graceful, effortless, like she'd forgotten what pain felt like. "I was never who you thought," she said softly. "My name is," she made a series of sounds no human throat could replicate. "But you can call me what you did before." The farmer's wife gasped. "You're one of them." The pilot, or whatever she was now, shook her head. "Not exactly. I'm what happens when their kind and yours mix." A terrible understanding dawned on the farmer. That device. It wasn't just proof. It was you. Your real self. She nodded. A genetic key. The last surviving piece of the first successful hybrid. Me. The silver beings made a series of clicking sounds. The pilot responded in kind before turning back to them. "They're going to send you home. You'll remember none of this." The farmer's stomach dropped. "No. We deserve to know the truth." The pilot touched his face. Her fingers were warm. "Knowing will get you killed. The ones chasing us? They're not military. Not really. They're the ones who've been hiding the truth for decades." The farmer's wife grabbed the pilot's wrist. "Then let us stay. We can't go back to." A sudden humming filled the room. The silver beings raised their long hands in unison. The farmer felt his thoughts grow fuzzy, his limbs heavy. The last thing he saw before darkness took him again was the pilot's violet eyes, filled with sorrow. "Be well," she whispered. Then. Nothing. The farmer woke to birdsong. Sunlight streamed through the familiar cracks in his hut's roof. For a dizzying moment, he thought it had all been a dream, the crash, the device, the silver beings. Then he turned his head and saw his wife staring at her hands like they belonged to someone else. "You remember too," he whispered. She nodded, eyes wide. They rushed outside. Their field stood untouched, golden barley swaying in the morning breeze. No scorch marks from aircraft. No signs of military vehicles. Everything looked normal. Too normal. The farmer's fingers went to his chest where the device had burned against his skin. A phantom ache lingered. "They messed up," he said. "We weren't supposed to remember." His wife touched her temple. "Or they let us remember." A sound made them turn, the creak of their gate swinging open. A stranger stood there, dressed in simple traveler's clothes. A woman. Not the pilot. But not entirely human either. Her eyes were a normal brown, but they held that same ancient knowing. She carried a cloth bundle which she placed carefully at their feet before stepping back. "You were brave," she said. Her voice sounded almost like the pilot's, but younger. "Because of you, the first daughter lives." The farmer's breath caught. "First daughter?" The stranger smiled. "The one you called Pilot. She sends this gift. And a warning." She nudged the bundle with her foot. The cloth fell away to reveal a small wooden box. Inside lay two things. A single seed unlike any they'd ever seen, iridescent blue, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. A newspaper clipping dated 3 days from now. The headline read, "Military exercise causes forest fire, no casualties reported." The farmer's hands shook as he picked up the clipping. The photo showed their burning fields. Their destroyed home. The stranger's expression turned grave. "They'll come again. Not for her anymore, for you. Because you remember." His wife clutched the seed. "What do we do?" For the first time, the stranger looked uncertain. "Plant the seed where only you can see what grows. When the time comes, it will protect you." "And then what?" the farmer pressed. The stranger was already walking away. Over her shoulder, she said the last words they'd ever hear from her kind. "Then you decide whether to hide the truth, or spread it." As she disappeared down the road, the farmer noticed something odd. Her footprints left no marks in the dusty path. That night, they planted the seed deep in their root cellar. By morning, tendrils had already crept up the walls, glowing faintly in the dark. A week later, when the military trucks returned, the vines had grown thick as a man's arm. They moved on their own when touched. Protected the entrance when strangers approached. The farmer and his wife never spoke of what happened to anyone else. But sometimes, on clear nights, they'd sit outside and watch the stars, waiting. And wondering.